Nobody likes the guy that says, "I told you so." But on this one, I'm taking a victory lap. When Amazon announced that they had picked up the Tomb Raider franchise and that they'd hired Phoebe Waller-Bridge to be their showrunner, I told my friends and even some business partners at the time, this is dead on arrival. Now, it wasn't because of Phoebe Waller-Bridge being hired. She was just the subsequent bad decision on top of an initial bad decision. That initial bad decision was coming from Crystal Dynamics. Crystal Dynamics have owned Tomb Raider since around 2004 or 5, after Angel of Darkness flopped, and Eidos took the rights for Tomb Raider away from its creator, Core Design. Crystal Dynamics has a very repressed corporate culture. They're based in San Francisco. They're very myopic. They kind of keep Lara Croft in a cage, almost like a very wealthy person in the 18th century would keep a tropical bird in a cage on their estate, just for their own personal amusement. They see Lara in a very different way than the average Tomb Raider fan. And what they've decided to do over the last few years is water the character down. But on top of that general dissatisfaction with making the character more vanilla, taking away Lara's uniqueness, they're also terrible at merchandising. They're terrible. They're absolutely terrible at making anything but the games. And the games, of course, are of diminishing critical acclaim. They only know how to really get statues off the ground from companies. You can get Tomb Raider statues pretty consistently from them. But when it comes to toys, when it comes to spin-off media, when it comes to anything else, Crystal Dynamics is handcuffed ideologically. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to. In fact, not even ideologically. That's one problem. But the other problem is just their business acumen when it comes to Tomb Raider is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So when they said, "Oh, we're partnering with Amazon," I was like, all right, well, that's just them saying they don't know how to do this. And then when they announced like 2 days later, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and I went, oh, yeah, now they're just doing what Amazon wants them to do, which isn't a good idea. And then 2 days after that, or a day or something after that, they said, oh, and Amazon is our main partner for distributing the next game. Well, at that point, what's the point of you, Crystal Dynamics? These people have chosen a path where they want Tomb Raider to have a unified timeline, which is really just their excuse for we want all these various series of Tomb Raider games to all be part of one master canon, which is dumb. That's never going to work. And then we're going to center it around a version of Lara that we've conceived that we can accept. Now, keep in mind, Crystal Dynamics is responsible for the most sexified version of Lara Croft ever in the Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld games. This was not in any way controversial at the time. It's not like they did anything salacious. But they are responsible for dialing Lara's sex appeal up to 12. But then they immediately went 180 degrees with their next series of games. And they've now decided to make her this kind of maudlin, vanilla, uncertain, full of angst and daddy issues character. Well, that hasn't really resonated well with a lot of people. After the 2013 Survivor reboot game, which was quite good, they didn't stick to the plan of bringing back the original Lara at that point. This was supposed to be an origin story, and then they choked because they just couldn't bring themselves to bring back the original Lara Croft. They've since been kind of stretching out this whole idea while they develop this unified timeline version of Lara that really just looks like a cosplayer with a very conservative group of parents that told her you can't wear short shorts. Cover up, Lara. Like, video games are like stand-up comedy. The best stand-up comedy and the best video games are the ones that push some boundaries and maybe make you a little uncomfortable at times. Crystal Dynamics is no longer about that. Crystal Dynamics is, like I said, a San Francisco-based company, and they have very reticent, weird, ideological showrunners and marketing people who can't get out of their own way. I've had direct interactions with a number of these personalities, and they get visibly flustered and upset when you're trying to market or take advantage of Tomb Raider's long history. They pay lip service to saying we acknowledge it, but then they hand off all the remasters of the classic games to a completely different company because they refused year after year after year to remaster them for the PC. I'm sure they're bristling right now that those remastered games have done very well. The lion's share of people are anticipating a new Tomb Raider game that has been taking way too long to get off the ground. And now they've thrown in their lot with Amazon to try and get it done, which that's not a good idea. But in the background, in their reticence, they have resisted the call for any kind of merchandising. They're willing to talk to merchandisers, but then they start meddling with everything. It's like they don't want to make any money. They did a backpack replica, like a full-on prop replica of her classic backpack, and the company they threw their lot in. This was, I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. I paid in for 2 of them. They weren't cheap. They were cheap, but they weren't cheap, if that makes any sense. The company just went belly up and weren't going to make it, and then they couldn't even process refunds. People like myself had to get their credit card companies, on the line and force the funds back. And this was a company that had something of a decent reputation before they got involved with Crystal Dynamics. And then what does Crystal Dynamics do? Instead, they decide, well, as much as people wanted that backpack, and we could offer it as a standard item on our web store, what we're going to do instead is just offer people like a business briefcase that's inspired by Tomb Raider. For your laptop and stuff. And it's like, wait, so you won't offer up the thing that everybody wanted and then couldn't get? Because they're really, really bad at merchandising, and that includes spin-off media. Their animated series was crap, the latest one on Netflix. It was embarrassing to watch. Cheap as hell animation. Terrible, know-nothing, like vanilla cookie-cutter story. And so some people have said, oh, this whole thing going under at Amazon it sucks. Oh my God. And I'm saying it's the best thing that could happen. It's the best thing that could happen because, one, we really didn't want Phoebe Waller-Bridge writing Tomb Raider. 2, you really don't want the current crop of leadership at Crystal Dynamics and creatives helming Tomb Raider or a project like that because they just get in the way. From what I've seen of how they get in the way with the merchandising, and I've seen that firsthand, to how the animated series turned out, which they clearly also kept meddling in as the corporate parent. Can you imagine what this series would have looked like? It would have been awful. It would have been absolutely terrible. So I don't see this as a loss for the Tomb Raider series. I see this as a bullet dodged. But the game is still in play between Crystal Dynamics and Amazon. And in the background, they're still not effectively marketing this character. They're willing to pimp this character out to anything that they can push her into. Fortnite, Hero Wars, or one of those mobile games. They've done a number of those kind of things over the last year and a half. Even as they say, we're very protective of Lara and her brand. And it's like, no, you're not. You're not protective of it. You're simply controlling. That's like the biggest gaslighting thing ever. It's what an abuser says. I'm trying to protect you, even as they like grab you around the neck and throttle you and throw you into the closet under the stairs. This is a corporate culture at Crystal Dynamics that is wholly broken. You know, I'm reminded of Cartman having to go into San Francisco, you know, and he has to wear like a bell diving suit. I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody in San Francisco is a stereotype, but if you want to see that stereotype in action, talk to anybody from Crystal Dynamics. This was a British character created by a British software company in 1996. And then it was handed over to a San Francisco-based company, and it's been held hostage there ever since. And they're not going to ever effectively market this character and get it out in front of the fans with this crop of leadership and this crop of marketing people. It's not going to happen. They have, as a company, lost the plot. So when they said, yeah, we're doing this show at Amazon and Phoebe Waller-Bridge is going to helmet and then we're going to spin a movie off from it. And I was like, nope, that ain't happening. There's no way that's happening under these people. They're going to muck it all up, as Phoebe Waller-Bridge so infamously said in Dial of Destiny. If this does actually carry forward or limp forward somehow and they salvage it, I'll be very interested to see under what new revised showrunner team and leadership team they bring this back from the dead. Because at this point, it really seems like Crystal Dynamics is just a company that wants to collect licensing checks and royalty fees. But even with that hands-off approach as far as not wanting to put in the effort, there's still that obnoxious type of corporate parent. They don't want to do the work, but they want to get in the way of everyone who wants to do the work. And that includes trying to dictate exactly what products should be allowed to be made. And I get it. Like, nobody that I know of has suggested, you know, a Tomb Raider dildo. All right? Like, yes, there's an off-brand company that kind of stole the character or whatever, and I think is doing some sort of silicone doll or whatever, but that's not an officially licensed product. But the people who are legitimate merchandisers and licensors who just love the brand, they just love the character, they love Tomb Raider as an adventure series, Crystal Dynamics is a huge roadblock to dealing with. You can have the best ideas in the world. They'll tell you you have great ideas. And then the moment you sit down at a table with them, well, now we kind of want to not do that and change all this up, and we're really not comfortable with this, and can we maybe do that? And you look at them and you go, nobody knows what that is. Well, they will in another 6 years. Nobody cares about Unified Lara right now because there's nothing Unified Lara coming out. Even the latest animated series that was supposed to be Unified Lara turned out to be just another kick the can down the road extension of the Survivor series. And yet all they want to do is this Unified Lara that has not... we won't even talk about escape velocity. This thing hasn't even come out of the hangar, let alone started going off the runway. They're like, we're not going to do anything until this thing is ready. And I got to tell you, Crystal Dynamics, this thing ain't never going to be ready. Because you guys can't get out of your own way. Your company's firing people left and right. Your marketing people are some of the most arrogant toads I've ever interacted with. I'm glad the show got shut down. I really am. Tomb Raider as an entity that existed long before Crystal Dynamics deserves better than that. And okay, so Phoebe Waller-Bridge played the playbook that J.J. Abrams played with Warner Brothers, where she got a multi-million-dollar development deal, didn't really do anything with it, messed around, and then walked away and cashed in. That's Hollywood's problem. They have to deal with the J.J. Abrams and the Phoebe Waller-Bridges of the world. I'm just glad that Tomb Raider didn't suffer another black eye by getting all the way through this mediocre process like it did with the Netflix animated series, which took forever to come out, and I guarantee you it's because Crystal Dynamics people were meddling in the background all the way through. They're never going to let anything cool happen with this franchise ever again, as long as they're in charge. And now with the schizophrenia of Embracer Group owning IDOS and Crystal Dynamics, it's probably even less likely. So we might as well just enjoy those remastered games. Just really enjoy those, because it was a miracle they happened, and be thankful they happened under a completely different company. Because Crystal Dynamics hardly has a crystal clear vision for Tomb Raider.